What's up everyone? Today we're going to cover my Rowing 201 class. Hopefully by now you've at least gotten a few workouts on the rower under your belt. Maybe you've even been training for a couple months, getting more comfortable, getting more confident on the rower. If not, I've got my intro to rowing video, which will give you an overview of the basics of the rowing stroke. So definitely check that out. We're gonna cover slightly more intermediate concepts and principles that will help you take your rowing to the next level. So in my intro to rowing video, I didn't talk much about the pace monitor. So I'll give you an overview of the most important things you need to know about how to use the pace monitor, the information it's giving you, how to check your resistance on the rower, also how to connect it with apps. So if you are wanting to track your workouts online, very easy to set that up. So this is the home screen. Anytime you turn the rower on, which you can do by pressing the menu button, you'll be given these 5 options. And if you're hopping on just for a quick casual workout, you can always push just row. It will take you directly to the metrics screen and you can start your workout. Now, more often than not though, especially if you get more serious about your training on the rower, you will not use the just row setting. You will likely set a workout up. And so to do that, click select workout. Standard list, I don't use all that often. It has a few, the pace monitor has a few presets, which are, I guess, what Concept 2 thinks are the most common workouts people do. If you happen to be doing any of those, of course, standard list will work, but very often what I usually do is just click new workout and I can program my workout from scratch. Now, when you click new workout, it gives you a few options. Are you doing a single distance, single time? I have never once used single calorie, although I believe in CrossFit gyms they might use this option. There are intervals, and I actually have no idea what special is. Oh, okay. Well, I've never used special. So really what I'm using the top 2 and then the interval option. Single distance and single time are like they sound. Either you have a set distance that you're looking to row. Maybe you are rowing for a set time. So maybe you're doing a 20-minute workout, a 60-minute workout. You would use those options. Intervals is where it gets a little bit funky and the user interface is not necessarily intuitive. So I'll take a minute and just talk through this. So there are a few options for intervals. Most common are intervals based on distance. So an example being 500-meter intervals. You would use the first option for that. There are time-based intervals. So for example, 1-minute intervals. Now in both of those cases, whether you're doing intervals based on distance or time, there's going to be rest period in between the intervals. And so I'll just quickly show you how to program that because this trips a lot of people up when they are learning how to use the pace monitor. Let's say my workout is 500 meters times 8 with 3 minutes rest. 500-meter intervals, so that's a prescribed distance. I'm gonna click intervals, distance. Set the distance, it's already actually defaults to 500 meters, that's perfect. If you needed to adjust this, you would use the buttons here to move the cursor left or right as needed, and then plus and minus to adjust the digits. So if I was gonna do, let's say 1,000-meter intervals instead, I would set it like that. And to set the rest time, similarly, I would move the cursor down to rest time, to the digits, and I think I said 3 minutes. I think I said 500 meters too. So, okay, so 500 meters with 3 minutes rest. You might be wondering, well, how do I specify how many intervals I'm doing? You don't need to do that. The pace monitor will actually just count up as you go. So during the rest break, after your last interval, just stop the workout, press the menu button and exit out. When you're done programming the workout, click the check mark and you are ready to go. So again, it says here you're on the first interval and this will count up. Let's just quickly talk through some of the different views you can have on the pace monitor. So I personally like this display where it gives me more information. I can see my average pace per 500 meters. Of course, the big number in the middle is your real-time pace, or the pace of your most recent stroke, distance remaining, strokes per minute, your cadence. This is a running timer, so this is just counting up. Because we're doing intervals, it's giving me the interval count and then my projected finish. So I like having more information. Some people do not, and that is okay. You can actually push display. Now, I don't use any of these graphs when I am rowing. There's also a pace boat function. If you find it motivating to race a virtual pace boat, you can also set that when you're programming the workout. I never do that though. Keep pushing. So some people like this view, which is a little simpler, fewer numbers to look at, less information to process. But I generally prefer this view. I didn't talk much about drag factor in my intro to rowing video, but it's a very important thing to take into account when you're on the rower. So on the rower, on the right side of the flywheel, there's a damper setting. So it's kind of hard to see here, but you can see how numbers go from 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest resistance, and 10 being the highest. I have seen many times, especially with guys, guys in particular, who are new to rowing, when they'll sit down on the rower and they will crank the fan or the damper up to 10, thinking, well, hey, 10, a bigger number, must be better, right? The higher the number, the better. That's generally how things work, right?
Do you even lift?
In this case, definitely not. It's worth noting that not every erg is calibrated exactly the same. So, a 5 on my rower might not be exactly equivalent to a 5 on someone else's, and that could be for a variety of reasons. It could be due to just the age of the machine, whether there's dust in the flywheel, environmental conditions, humidity, temperature, can all affect the resistance that is felt on the machine. And so the way to calibrate your drag factor or your resistance. When I say drag factor, I mean resistance, right? Those terms are used interchangeably. But if you want to calibrate and really double check your resistance or drag factor, you have to use the pace monitor to help you. There is a setting here. So if you click from the home screen to more options, display drag factor at the very top, it will say row to display your drag factor. You have to take a few strokes for the pace monitor to spit out a drag factor. So you don't have to rip on it, just a few easy strokes. That's all you need. Maybe 3 to 4 strokes. All right, now let's take a look at the output. This is telling me my drag factor is 132. Now, I have no idea what the units are here, and it really doesn't matter, actually. I'm gonna give ranges here. Generally speaking, men will train, so high school, college, elite level men will train with the drag factor anywhere from 125 to 130. Maybe even into the low 130s. So let's just say 125 to 135 for men. And for women, generally speaking, again, the drag factor will be anywhere from maybe 115 to 125. There is no right or wrong number, but generally those are the ranges within which rowers are training. Of course, you can always experiment going slightly heavier, more resistance, or slightly lighter. But those ranges tend to be optimal for peak performance. All right, the last thing I'll mention about the pace monitor, and I do go into much more detail in my other video on tracking and the tools I use, but Concept 2 has a fantastic app called the ErgData app, which allows you to sync your phone, so Bluetooth pair your phone to the pace monitor. That's what this little, this is a phone holder up here. I'll put my phone up here, it will sync to the monitor. You know what, maybe I will actually demonstrate this real quick. So I'll show you guys how this works. All right, so I have the ErgData app on my phone. So I'm gonna click into that. And if I go to, no, it's not really in focus here, but if I go to workout, my phone will automatically pair with the pace monitor. And so now if I click connect here, it will say app connected. So my phone and the pace monitor are synced up. I can also connect my heart rate monitor to the pace monitor by just pressing this button. Pretty plug and play, quite easy to use once it's set up. Now, the cool thing about using the ErgData app is that once I pair the pace monitor to my phone, I can actually set the workout on my phone. So set a distance. Let's say I want to do 5,000 meters. I click done. I click ready, and it sets the workout on the pace monitor for me. Then what I would do is simply place my phone in the holder here. What's really cool about ErgData too is that I can also pick from a variety of other metrics, ton of metrics here that are not available on the pace monitor itself. So ErgData gets you more data, which if you're a data head or numbers junkie like me, the more data the better. And once you finish your workout, the workout will automatically be uploaded to your Concept 2 logbook. So it really simplifies the tracking process. You don't have to do double data entry. And the Concept 2 logbook also has some pretty cool visualizations and charts you can see of your workouts. So if you're really into that stuff, I highly, highly recommend it. Oh, and if you use Strava, so Strava, again, a very popular app for, especially for endurance athletes, you can link your Strava to your ErgData app so that when you finish your workouts, ErgData will also upload the workout to your Strava profile. So pretty cool. We're gonna talk a little bit about grip pressure. How firm of a grip should you have when you're on the rowing machine? Very easy when you're starting out to feel like you need to death grip the handle, white knuckle it, which creates a lot of tension, obviously, in your hands, forearms, it's just your upper body in general. Not only might you develop repetitive stress injuries if you have a very tense grip, it will tire you out. You will fatigue faster as a result. So you obviously don't want your grip to be so loose that the handle slips out of your hand. If you're pulling hard on the erg, you will need some amount of grip pressure to stay connected to the handle. So one helpful visual can be, I'll try to bring you guys in close here. I never want my hands to be completely wrapped around the handle like this, right? As you can see, there's no daylight between my hand and the handle. You don't want to grip the handle like this. This likely means you are gripping too tight, too much pressure. The way I grip the handle is, you'll see there is separation, there's daylight between my fingers, my palm, and the handle. My thumbs might even move around a little bit, but it probably feels like on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm squeezing with about a 4, maybe a 5 pressure. So I'll take a few strokes on the rower here, see if I can slow it down so that you can actually see what my grip is like while I'm rowing. even in just a few strokes, it made me realize my thumbs are actually not really on the handle very much at all. So I am really exerting pressure on the handle through the pads of my fingers, right? Kind of like that. Thumb is pretty loose, and I'm really feeling the pressure right in here. Now there's a related question around, well, where should I position my hands on the handle? You know, how wide of a grip should I use? Now, I think it's pretty self-evident that you don't want to be gripping you don't want any part of your grip to be on the black center portion of the handle. But other than that, I think this is also highly based on personal preference. I tend to have a fairly wide grip where my pinkies are actually slightly hanging off the end of the handle, or they're kind of on the rounded portion of the handle. That has always felt comfortable for me. You do want a wide enough grip that when you are at the finished position, so if you'll recall, the finish is when we're at the end of the stroke, you don't want to feel like your hands are hitting your stomach or your chest. Not good. You want them wide enough where you really feel like you can keep those elbows going back and your shoulder blades squeezing, pinching back. So hands here in the middle will make it hard to do that. Related to grip pressure, those of you who are new to rowing, if you've been at it for a while, you might have noticed blisters forming, and you might be wondering, oh wow, is that normal? Am I doing something wrong? Should I be getting blisters? Short answer is, you're not doing anything wrong. Blisters are a normal cost of doing business with the rower. And over time, those blisters, if taken care of, will callus over, and you won't get that many blisters anymore. Now, the first month or two, whether you're on the rowing machine or on the water, can be pretty rough. It's very normal for new rowers to have open blisters, multiple open blisters on both hands. It can be very painful, but the best way that I found when I was rowing on the water to take care of my blisters was just using athletic tape. So plain old athletic tape that you could buy at the drugstore for a couple bucks, taping up the wounds, covering them up while the blisters were sort of at their worst. If you have a blister that has not popped and you can tell is sort of full of serous fluid, it's not recommended to pop them. Now, I'm sure some would advocate for taking a sterile needle and lancing it, and draining it that way, which if you have the right tools at home, by all means, go ahead and do that. But certainly don't, if you can at all avoid it, don't pick the blister, don't pop it, and then rip the skin off. That's just gonna make it more painful for you and prolong the recovery time. So, but I will show you, because I've now been at this for a while, my hands are covered with calluses. None of these are blisters anymore. These are all by now hardened, thickened calluses, but this is what a rower's hands will look like. So if you're hoping to preserve your baby soft hands, or if you are an aspiring hand model, rowing's probably not the sport for you. But just know, in all seriousness, that this is a normal part of the process. As you work on relaxing your grip, as you put more miles in on the rower, shouldn't be something that really bothers you or gets in your way at all. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about a couple topics based on questions that I've gotten from friends recently. One was, how tight should the foot straps be? Well, first off, how tight should my shoelaces be? And then related to that, how tight should the foot straps be on the foot plate? As far as shoelaces go, and actually, you know what? I wore the wrong shoes for this. But I will generally tie my shoes quite snug. I don't want them so tight that I feel like my laces are cutting off circulation to my foot, but I don't like to feel my foot sliding around inside my shoe. You know, since the sole of my shoe is how I'm transferring force to the rower, I want to make sure there's no slippage or minimal slippage and sliding around. So I will lace them up pretty snug. And as far as the foot straps go, I will also similarly usually pull these quite snug as well. Again, not so snug that they feel restrictively tight. I don't want to feel any pain, You know, I'm not gonna take this and just yank on it as hard as I can, but I do want them snug enough that I can't really lift my toe off the foot plate very easily. Again, I want to maintain my connection to the foot plate. I would say, you know, in terms of tightness, probably a 7 out of 10. And I was also asked by a friend recently about, and it was a question that caught me off guard because he was on the rower, we'd gone through the technical fundamentals, and then he asked me, when am I supposed to breathe? If any of you have ever been runners, you know, cadence and rhythm are very important, right? In any endurance sport, actually, not just running. I know some runners who will even, you know, their cadence in terms of steps per minute is so dialed in that they will actually, or they will pick songs and build playlists that match their running cadence just to help keep them in rhythm. And rowing is much the same, where breathing and the timing of your breaths can help get you into a rhythm as well. Now, of course, how often you breathe is going to be dependent on the intensity of your workout, on a variety of things, how fit you are. I'll just show you what I tend to do as maybe a starting point, and then, you know, you can find your own formula. So when I'm on the rower, especially if I'm doing a more intense workout where, you know, my heart rate is up, I'm working hard, I will try to breathe at both the catch and the finish of the stroke. So now if I'm doing something low intensity, you know, a steady state workout, I might not be thinking too much about my breathing or my timing, but if I'm doing something higher intensity where breathing becomes really, really important, I'll be much more intentional about it. Again, I will typically try to breathe at both the catch and the finish of the stroke, getting as much oxygen in as I can. Now, I was exaggerating a little bit there. I'm not necessarily trying to breathe as loud as I was there, but again, just to illustrate, it's very important when you're doing high intensity work on the erg to get oxygen in. I wanted to also talk a little bit about the concept of slide ratio.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
This is something you newer rowers might not have heard about before, but it is very, very important if you are looking to become more proficient on the rower. So the whole idea with slide ratio is that you should always spend more time on the recovery portion of the stroke than you do on the drive portion. Quick refresher, right? The recovery is when you've finished the stroke and you are coming back up to the catch. That's the recovery. That is your rest time, right, in the workout. If you want a quick, explosive drive, and then you want to take your time coming back up. So here is an exaggerated example of what poor slide ratio would look like. I was going at about 24, 25 strokes per minute there. Now for the good example, I'm gonna stick to the same stroke rate. So I was at a 24, 25 cadence. Hopefully we see a difference. Otherwise, I've got some stuff to work on. All right, so here we'll try and illustrate what good slide ratio looks like. So if you have good slide ratio, it should never feel like you are having to rush to get up to the catch for the next stroke. Now, a logical question you might ask is, well, if I'm trying to row at a high stroke rate, let's say 30 strokes per minute, I'm gonna have to be pretty quick coming back up to the catch, right? The answer is yes, of course, but it's more the thought in your head at any stroke rate should be quicker drive, more relaxed recovery. This is just something that, again, there isn't really necessarily a formula behind it. It's just something you will start to feel out as you become more proficient on the rower. But I do think it's a very important concept to understand and keep in mind as you build your competency on the machine. So the last thing I'll cover actually has to do with workout gear in your wardrobe. You know, if you're a very casual rower and maybe you're on the machine once or twice a week for 15, 20 minutes, totally fine to row in basketball shorts, you know, just regular workout gear, whatever you have, and are using for your other workouts. Just make sure it's not too loose because it can get caught in the seat and on the track. But if you're going to be spending more time on the machine, so, you know, as you start to move into 3 to 4 workouts a week, maybe 30 to 60 minutes each on the machine, I would highly recommend investing in some rowing specific gear, namely spandex bottoms, so sometimes referred to as trow. I would highly recommend investing in a couple pairs of trow or rowing spandex, just because you don't want fabric sliding around and causing chafing as you get into those longer workouts. And they're reasonably priced as well. You can get a pair of trow for $30 to $40 online. If there are any topics you'd like to see me cover, or if you have any questions, you know, we're all trying to become better rowers. Certainly, I have numerous technical things that I am still trying to work on. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, yeah, I'll try to keep cranking out a Learn to Row video every so often. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep chasing. Peace.